Here at least. You ready, Cynthia?
Awesome. I'm ready. So
right, let's do it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, as Michelle said, it's Wednesday. So that's exciting, I guess, right?
To
say we're getting through the week. So I want to talk today about what English Bulldogs can teach you about our real estate buyers. So just to give you a little qualification on me on this subject, of course, these are kind of my two favorite subjects to talk about: real estate and buyers and making transactions happen, and then English Bulldogs. So I have had 7 English Bulldogs through my adult life. I currently have 2 and a Frenchie. And so it's just amazing how similar they are with our buyers and our Bulldogs. So let me give you a little bit of a quick background about English Bulldogs. They were bred for bull baiting, so they would be there to charge the bulls and kind of get them in where they need to be. An extremely tough breed. They feel very little pain, and they look, from their outside appearance, to be mean, right? Maybe like some of the buyers that we have seen or worked with in the past, right? Might sound a little bit familiar with some of those that we have met. So one of the first traits that we come across is how stubborn they are. So, really cute on the outside and funny, but boy, can they be stubborn, very similar to our buyers. So, there's lots of comments. I'm in lots of these Bulldog groups on Facebook and other areas. And, everyone is always commenting about how stubborn these darks are. Well, sometimes buyers become pretty stubborn as well, right? So this was a post about a stubborn buyer losing a home over stupidity and how to handle that. So, hey, y'all, had a buyer. I'll call them the know-it-all family. They knew everything, especially since they watch HGTV, $1 Million Listing, and they saw something on YouTube that one time. So the buyers, the know-it-all family, they submitted an offer, solid offer. The seller countered, but they were $10,000 apart. So the seller then offered to meet in the middle, so they're no longer apart. But unfortunately, the buyer refused and actually informed the seller that they were considering lowering their offer. The buyer used silly excuses, such as values listed on the tax assessment of the property and replacement values from insurance quotes. And in the meantime, the seller got a higher offer. The buyer snoozed, we lost, and it was all my buyer's fault. So now this buyer's angry and they don't want to buy anymore, right? They're solid buyers, but they think that they know everything because they read some blog on the internet about real estate. They watch real estate TV shows. So any thoughts on how to handle situations like this in the future? We can all probably relate in one way or another to this situation, where we do have buyers that just aren't realistic in the market that we're currently in, or again, they're just stubborn overall and they kind of want their way. So one of the ways that we can overcome this is to make sure that we are truly educating and sharing market knowledge with them. I want my buyers to be just as aware of what's happening in the market as I am, right? I want them to be just as educated. So, like Michelle, think about it. If you are going to purchase a house, wouldn't you want to be familiar with what the prices are and what the market's doing?
Yeah, and I definitely would expect my realtor to know too.
Yes, true. And so it's a great way for us as realtors to show that we do have that market knowledge, but then also that we care enough. And we want to make sure the buyer is educated. It's very rare that a buyer is going to buy the very first property that they see, although it happens sometimes. Most of the time they want a comparison shop. They want to make sure they really understand how much properties are going for, what prices are, things like that. So one of the ways that we can help them by educating them on the market is NAR on their website at nar.realtor has a housing and research and statistics link right at the top, super easy to find. And you can go in and see those housing statistics. As you can see, that circle there, kind of small, but there's housing statistics on that page. There's state and there's metro area data. So it's really easy. We're so fortunate in our industry that as realtor members, we share so much data and information with each other. And so coming up with this information is not that difficult, right? Mm-hmm. So we can go to nar.realtor, go in and pull in the research and statistics, and pretty documents you can print out. There's infographics. There's all kinds of stuff there. And you can share that with your buyers when you're first going through, let's say, your buyer presentation. So if Michelle, if we sit down and I say, okay, let me tell you about the market. Let me tell you why you should hire me. Let me tell you all the things that I can do for you. You're probably going to be a little bit more impressed if I can take the time and educate you on the market, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So, we want to make sure we have these research and statistics, and NAR gives it to us right there. You can also check, with your local MLS or your local association, because they probably also provide some statistics as well. So you just kind of feel what your favorite is or what you want to talk about, or maybe you use both of them, right? You use both and you share that with your buyers, because it's really important to get them knowledgeable about what the market is doing. And we know on a hyper-local level, the market today is very different than the market of yesterday, which is probably going to be very different from the market of tomorrow, right? We're in a very fast-paced, fast-changing world. I mean, just look at how much has changed in the past week. There's so much happening that affects our real estate market. And fortunately and unfortunately, all that real estate buyers have to go off of is what they read in the newspaper or they see on the TV news. And so
on social media.
or social media. Exactly. Yeah. The place for all news, right?
Yeah.
So we do have to make sure that we're taking the time and educating them and not just assuming that they know just as much as we do, right? RPR is another place. You can go into RPR, right? At narrpr.com. You can get statistics from there as well, even statistics around a particular property that they're interested in, and do neighborhood statistics and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities at our fingertips. If we just take a little bit of time, we show the buyers that we care and so on. Now, speaking of getting them up to date with the market, right? We have this market that has been just gangbusters crazy for the past year or over a year. And, 2021 was just a record year. We thought 2020 was crazy, and then we went into 2021. So it's important for buyers to understand what is happening with multiple offers. We have such strong demand, and the inventory is not being able to keep up pace with that. And so from the very beginning, before we even go out and look at properties, right, I want to make sure that I'm educating the buyer. Again, the presentation in my mind is the best place to do that, and say, hey, let me tell you what's happening with the market so that you can go in and make your best offer first, because we are seeing multiple offers. Now, this is a one sheet that's available in your abr.realtor portal. So you can go in and you can grab that and share with them so that you've got a nice, beautiful, presentation and a flyer that you can share with them to read all about the multiple offers, again, going in with their best offer first and so on. So make a note to go into abr.realtor and, pull that one sheet, and you can use that. It's very, very helpful in this market because we are seeing so many situations of these multiple offers. You've probably seen on social media these posts of, the house went on the market an hour ago and there's 40 people outside waiting to get inside. It's just nuts, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I also like to touch on with the buyer during that initial presentation is what I call the elephant in the room. I want to make sure that even if the buyer doesn't bring up this elephant, I mean, it's there, it's in the corner of the room, and we just need to address it and talk about that, right? So what is this elephant in the room? It's basically anything that guides the buyer into what they feel values are, right? So we might call these AVMs, these automated valuation models, which are just algorithm methods of calculating and coming up with what that property is worth, right, on this AVM based off of public record data and information that they have about the property, square footage, and, all of those types of details. But, and these AVMs are very popular. They're all over the place. Zillow has this estimate. We've got them on Truly. We've got them on all kinds of sites. A lot of brokerages have them available on their website as well. And so it attracts customers, right, that are really interested to see what values are. However, we've been in these homes, right? We show these properties as realtors. And so we know the local market. We know the trends. We know what people want and maybe what they don't want. And, trends are changing quickly as well, right? We went from these huge open floor plans a couple of years ago to, now we've got a lot of buyers going, I need a dedicated room for an office, or I need a dedicated room for my kids to homeschool, or, whatever the shifts and changes have been in that family makeup or those buyers. So these AVMs, these automated valuation models, you've probably seen them, right, Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
They're out there. Yeah. And so it's a great quick, way to go in and say, oh, what's this property worth? However, we go on properties that doesn't necessarily know the condition of the property. So if that roof is leaking or the property needs a whole gut and redo, these AVMs aren't going to know that. So we don't want to rely on these AVMs. The problem is our buyers look at them and they rely on them. And even going back to our family in New Jersey, even this buyer family that knows it all, they were looking at tax assessments and things like that, which buyers do that as well. They go on and say, well, the tax assessor office says the property is worth X. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a lot different than knowing this local market. So I think we have to discuss these AVMs with our buyers. And we need to make sure that they know, okay, here's what you'll find, when you're out looking at all these websites. Here's what these are, but I am here for you. I'm your local representation. I know the market. I know the area. I show property every day, or every week. And I can guide you in the valuations much better than, a customized valuation is what I like to call it. I will give you a customized valuation versus a quick, cheat sheet, right? Looking at quickly an AVM system. So, but I think it is a problem because Michelle, maybe you've got friends or whatever that may have looked at these before, and I think they put a lot of trust in them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's like that with the CMA. I mean, there's just a lot of data to look at. And I think when we talked earlier, you were talking about, like what motivates a buyer, not necessarily just moving for a job, especially now where we've got a lot of people relocating for one reason or the other. But, I think it's important for the agent to, say, like, what motivates you? Like, what do you really like about this location other than like, I'm moving here for a job? And I was telling Cynthia a story about how I had a neighbor who moved in during the pandemic and actually moved to Chicago for a job. And then actually job didn't work out. She didn't like it. And then got another job, fortunately enough. And then that job let her go 100% remote. And she's actually, sadly enough, going to be moving. So it's like, obviously things change all the time. But I think it's good to know and good to talk to your agent about like what do you really like about the location, because that's important too.
Yeah. And it brings up another whole point of why we need to keep in touch with our buyers, because they turn into sellers and then they turn into repeat buyers and referrals and so on. So yeah, we'll touch on that as well. But there's definitely we need them to trust us. Now, one of the ways that they can do that, or that we can help do that, is, these buyers need a lot of attention, very similar to bulldogs. If they're not right in your face, they feel like you're ignoring them. They feel like you've dropped them and you're not paying attention and you're off doing something different. So one of the ways I like to give them attention is through our automated MLS system. Now, let me explain what I don't do with this, which is probably very different, and then the way that I use these automations to really help with the buyers. So, our MLS systems have these great opportunities that we can go in and save a search. So we can talk to the buyer, find out what they're looking for, get kind of their criteria together, and then go into the MLS, do a search on that, save it, and then set it up to automatically email us, right? Whenever a new listing comes out, or once a day or whatever. And I love the fact that we have this automation, but I think they need attention. And so the way that I use this is a little bit different. I almost never set the search up to go directly to the buyer. Yeah. I set these searches up once I have the criteria and the information, but I set these searches up to come to me. Mm-hmm. So then every morning when I wake up, one of the first things I do is I look through the hot sheet in my MLS and I look through my emails to see what automated searches I got, and try to filter, for a lack of better terms, these properties for the buyers. Okay. Now, let me tell you why, and a couple of great things that come out of that. Sometimes we have these listings that, we're in a hurry, and, the members uploading the new listing, super excited about it. And I get the automated email that comes across that the property is obviously supposed to be listed at $250,000, but they forgot a zero, and it's $25,000. And so unfortunately, think about if the buyer got that, obviously they're going to go, that's the one, I want to buy that one.
Right.
And now you have to backtrack to explain that's a mistake. That's not for sale for $25,000 and so on. So it kind of gets rid of some of that stuff that comes across. But the thing I really like about it is, let's say that, I know, let's say, Michelle, you're looking for a property to buy, a condo or a house or whatnot. You've told me exactly what you want, and you don't want a fixer upper, right? So getting the email to come to me directly gives me the opportunity to filter that. So a lot of properties, especially I find this happens with like my first time home buyers, they're in a tight price range, and a lot of those properties need a lot of work. And so it helps me filter that out when I see it and I go, okay, that needs a bulldozer. My buyer's not going to be interested in that one. And I don't forward it because they've already given me such detail for what they're looking for. Now, on the flip side, let's say that a property comes across and it's a so-so, like maybe if I think that there's any slight interest that maybe this might work for them, I'll forward it to the buyer and I'll say, hey, check this out. Let me know what you think, and then give me the feedback, right? So share with me the feedback of, is it too big, too small, too much work, too, whatever, right? And that continues to enable me to learn more about the buyer and to help find that ideal property for them that matches their criteria and what they're looking for. Now, the other thing, though, is let's say that I open up my email this morning and there is a perfect house. This happened to me a few weeks ago. We actually just closed this week on it.
Hey,
and
nice.
I immediately contacted the buyer, right? Sent him a text message, called him, sent him the email, and said, listen, I have found the house. We've got to go like right now and take a look at this. This is the one. And so again, it's giving them that attention where when the buyer is set up on an automated email system, they know that's an automated email system. They know it does not take much work for us to do that. And so they don't feel the love. They don't feel the attention. The other thing that this does is, let's say that I don't get any emails for the whole week. I make a commitment to call every one of my buyers every single Monday. So every Monday I have time blocked that, if I just showed them property all day on Sunday, I, maybe don't need to call them. But the buyers that I have not had any real strong communication with in the last week, I'm going to make sure that I'm reaching out to them going, hey, I'm still looking. I'm looking at the hot sheet every day. We just haven't had anything come on the market yet that's in the criteria, but I'm still here for you. And I'm showing them that attention that they're striving for. Now, the other thing that does, of course, is show the buyer that I have not abandoned them. And so for procuring calls and some other reasons, of course, that's also helpful. But overall, it's really to show them that, hey, I'm here for you. And to me, that's what delivering customer service is, right?
Totally.
For the buyer, not just sending them some automated email and going, hey, call me when you find something, and then getting upset when they don't call us, right? That's not really giving that service to the buyer. So we want to make sure that they know it is about them. And bulldogs definitely want everything to be about them. And really, so do our buyers, right? It's all about them. They don't care that we're dealing with other people or we're busy with other stuff. It's all about them and making sure that they get that attention. Now, speaking of motivation, you mentioned motivation earlier. Bulldogs are very motivated by food, right? So it's kind of easy to see. They know when it's mealtime. However, our buyers, we do have to kind of dive in a little bit to find that motivation. So this made all the difference in the world to me by understanding their motivation, but then taking it a little bit further. So motivation comes from the same root word as emotion. And so for me, someone's motivation might be, as described here, what stimulates them to make this action, to act, to do what they need to do, maybe write the offer or look for houses or, whatnot. But the real emotion behind that is the feeling that triggers that, right? That emerges that desired goal. So let me give you an example. Like you were mentioning about, your neighbor moved here and now is moving away. So you do have to ask them, let's say you have a buyer that's moving into your area for a job transfer. So a lot of people say the motivation is the job transfer. That's why they're buying. They're moving into the area. They took a new job, or got transferred in their existing one. I don't necessarily think that is the end of that conversation. I want to go a little bit farther, and I want to find out in that motivation, what emotion or what created them to take action and actually say, yes, I'm moving. I'm picking up my entire family and I'm moving, to a whole new area and so on. That's a pretty, big adjustment. So what I like to do is actually find out the emotion behind it. And so in the case of a job transfer, what I'm looking at is what made you take the job transfer? What made you accept it, the move? So sometimes people, they want to change in weather, right? So maybe to get out of the cold and go to a warmer state in the South. Maybe it's to move closer to their family and they want to be close by. I had a job relocation last year that when they moved out of the area, they were a seller. They took the transfer and moved for no other reason than they were going to be within 20 miles of the sister's house, and they were looking forward to spending holidays together and things like that. They'd never lived near family in their whole adult careers. So, you have to find out the emotion behind it. Is it to provide a better quality of life to their family? Is it to be close to family? Is it ultimately, sometimes people retire, I'm in the great retiree state of Florida, and we have a lot of job relocations that come here with the intent that they're going to work the next couple of years, but they're nearing that retirement age. And then they're already here. They're just going to retire, and they already have their house. They've already gotten situated and so on in Florida. So we really need to find out the emotion behind their decisions. That also helps us make sure that when we are guiding them through the process of purchasing a house, when we are showing them the available options and we're talking about, maybe which property is right for them or helping them make those decisions, then we can understand the deeper thoughts of what's going into that and what made them pull the trigger and basically decide, yes, we're gonna move. So now, once they know you, they trust you. Very much like a bulldog, they have fierce loyalty to their owners, but it takes a while to build that trust. And that same thing happens with buyers. So, if I take the time with you, Michelle, and I sit down, we have a cup of coffee, we talk about all the things that you're, why you want to move here or why you're looking to move altogether. I just take the time to get to know you. I would imagine you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable about working with me as your realtor, right?
Totally.
And I think sometimes we rush into that. Right? As a realtor, we just kind of rush immediately in to go, okay, let's get you out there and let's start looking at properties. But there's so much to talk about before that, right? And so much that we do in our presentation and so on. So we just want to take the time to build that trust. Now, we all have these buyers that have told us before, like every realtor has this buyer story where the buyer said, oh, I want to buy a house with a really big yard and I want to, enjoy my yard and maybe get a dog. And then they buy a condo with like that yard. And so what I find is that buyers don't always know what they want. So instead of order taking, right? I really dislike order taking, meaning, you don't want to call a buyer and say, okay, well, how many bedrooms do you want? How many bathrooms do you want? What school district do you want? Whatever, right? That's order taking. Anybody can do that. What we do is sell our service. Right? We offer our customer service. We're there for them every step of the way to assist them in this big, life-changing transaction. So the way that I kind of change that up is say, tell me about a typical day in your life. So I want to know from start to finish, what do you do throughout the day? Where do you go? Where are you traveling? Maybe how far away is your work, or how far away is your kid's school, or how far away is the gym that you go to every day, or whatever, right? And then tell me about the rooms in your house. Tell me about the things that you do. So let's say that a buyer likes to wake up in the morning and read for an hour, really early in the morning. And so they want to have this like reading area. Well, that's something you don't get when you take an order. How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? You learn that by really getting into experiencing a day with them in their life. And now, when you're showing the property, hey, this would be a perfect spot for your reading time. Right. So that's how you can help them accomplish exactly what they're looking for in that house. So it's a good long-term fit. So we're going to ask them questions and then tell me more about that. Right. I like to ask that question a lot to get them to continue talking. And then we're listening. Right. We know we have one mouth, two ears for a reason. So we want to listen and make sure that we really, really understand what it is they're telling us. And if not, ask questions, right? Gain more information, because remember, it's all about them, right? It's all about them, not about us as the realtors. It's all about the buyer. So then when they know that you care, when they trust you, you can build extreme loyalty with that buyer, which is great because if we do our job and we keep in touch with them, they're going to keep coming back for more and more and more. And we all know the stats are there that we need to keep in touch with our customers. We're not always so good about doing that, but there's a lot of easy ways that we can do that. Doesn't take much, but there's a lot of easy ways. So of course we want to communicate often. As I mentioned, pick up the phone and call them once a week, but maybe even when they're not an active buyer, right? They purchased their property, you want to call after closing and make sure they got settled in okay. And then put them on a regular schedule to contact them every 6 months through the phone, right? To pick up the phone and call them. And then set them up on an e-newsletter and some of those other things that we can do. Provide extra perks for your most loyal customers. This is super easy. Do a CMA for them once a year to give them an update on what their property is worth. They won't ever need to go look at an AVM again because you're educating them on that. You're educating them on the market, the real estate market, and what things are happening and all of that type of stuff. So there's small little things that you can do that for them are huge perks that they receive from their realtor, and it creates that loyalty. I like to provide what's called wow customer service. Right now, you probably have places that you shop, Michelle, or you go to restaurants or whatnot that you continue to go back. You consider yourself a loyal customer, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And so they probably do certain things or they treat you a certain way that created that loyalty for you to continue to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we all have those favorite spots. And so that's really what this wow customer service is just little small extra things that we can do, like providing, I'll show you a utility sheet. There's some other things that we can provide to them that are just small steps, but they really show that we do care. And
that the buyer feels special.
Exactly. That's it. It's all about making people feel special these days because people don't feel special, right? And so we've had such a hard time the past couple of years. So yeah, absolutely. Don't let technology replace your relationship. Make sure to assist your relationship. So as I've already talked about with the automated emails, let it help you, but don't let it replace you, right? Mm-hmm. And then just really strive to be the best in your market so that you can gain that loyalty and that following, for lack of better terms, right? When you're keeping in touch with your customer base and they know what you're doing and they know that you're active in real estate and they know that you're selling and you're keeping them up to date with the market, they're going to be very loyal to you. Why would they need to shop around anywhere else, right? And then make sure you tell them what you do, right? Don't assume that they know that just because you're in real estate, you can also help them with property management or, whatever the other areas are that you serve in as your niche. Make sure that they know that. So this utility sheet is something that is fairly new, right? Michelle, this is pretty new.
Last few years, yeah.
Okay, all right. So this utility sheet is available at the ABR.Realtor Center, the member center. Mm-hmm. You can go in, there's some closing leave behinds that you can utilize, and these are fully customizable. Mm-hmm. So you put your picture, you put your information, and then you update and customize let's say the utility companies, but it also has places for your favorite restaurants, and other things, movie theaters, museums, parks, things like that. So you can go in and customize this. And just before closing, say, hey, by the way, I put this together for you. Contact the utility companies and get your utilities arranged. And I also included some of my favorite spots around town, right? So that is just, again, that wow customer service, just showing them that you care, giving them a little bit of attention. Because a lot of times we do have these buyers that ask us, well, what's your favorite restaurant, or where should we go for this? Or, do you have a doctor? You can customize this fully. So it's in the member center at ABR.Realtor under closing leave behinds. And this one in particular, there's other ones there you can look at, but it's called a utility sheet. So really super simple way to provide that wow customer service. Doesn't take much additional effort to do. So, and it's a great benefit we have from our ABR designation. So, once we show our care, once you show somebody that you care, all of a sudden they now know that you care. And that's what creates that loyalty. That's what creates that dependable repeat business. And they really don't need to look around for anybody else to help them through the process of buying their house, because you're fitting all the needs that they have for them, right? So they become very dependable for you and send you referrals, which is what we love and we want. And then last but not least, you have to make sure it's fun, right? It's a very stressful transaction. I mean, moving alone is stressful, right, Michelle?
Yeah. I
Thought
don't
of,
want to do it ever again.
yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've said that, by the way. Never moving again, and then we move. So be careful.
All right, fair.
But the real estate is such a stressful, whole transaction. And then you throw the moving part on top of that. So we really do have to remember to just be ourselves, right? Have our personality involved in it. Let the buyer be themselves and just have fun through the whole process also. It is a very serious process, but bulldogs are known for being silly and for making you laugh. And sometimes we all just need that little bit of a break, right? From our high stress transactions and life and just, everything in general. So we want to make sure that it's fun. So what do you think, Michelle? Are you ready to move?
No, but I think if I'm ever thinking about Florida, you'd be who I would call. Don't tell Gonzalo. It'd be you guys could duke it out.
Yeah, I won't talk Gonzalo or Brian or any. Yeah, exactly. Kind of spread out through Florida,
Yeah, fair enough. I would have to buy multiple places, but no, I think it's everything you said was perfect, and it definitely makes me think about if I were to move. I would. There are things I would do differently with picking an agent. So I think that you said all the right things, and I really think it was important that you mentioned the utility sheet because, like you said, is it new? I don't think a lot of people spend a lot of time after they earn the designation by going back and looking through the member center. And we do have those other closing leave behinds that are available for you to customize and give to your buyers. And they're great for, like Cynthia said, like referrals in the future. So, and she mentioned the one sheets as well, another customizable thing that you can give to your buyers and have them pass along, which is amazing. And then we also have a lot of really great content on our consumer site, which is homebuying.realtor. And we've got a blog that we update every week. And that's great information too. If, you want to just send it over to, a previous buyer, be like, just want to make sure you're changing your furnace filters or something random like that. Always good to just have that content already there that you can just copy and send over to them or post on your website or things like that. So I just want to check in and see if we have any questions. I don't see any yet. So just know that if you're watching this later, Cynthia is in the Facebook group. So you can tag her after we post the video and ask her any questions. Ask her maybe to share some pictures of her dogs if you're interested. So
is it sad that I have more pictures of my dogs than my kids?
No.
I don't know. My kids are older, so it's all about the dogs now, right?
I mean, I love it. The dogs don't talk back, right?
Right. Well, yeah, most of the time.
I mean, if you've got a Frenchie, then probably, right?
Yeah. He is the talker.
Well, in that case, if we've got no questions, I just want to say thank you so much, Cynthia, and to everyone for joining us. We hope you found some helpful strategies for working with tough clients. Please join us next month. Please note that we do have a new date. We're going to be hanging out on Facebook on April 12th with Margot Wheeler. So we will see everybody next time. Bye, everyone.